it was crazy, and it's like, yeah, but then it's like, nah, not really anymore.
Yeah, it'd be like talking about like cigarettes like that. It's like, oh, you suck on this thing for like 5-6 minutes, and then you got like this crazy buzz. It's like almost like you're a little dizzy. Oh, it's so cool.
I saw a girl at Outside Lands, and I say girl because she was like 12 to 14, and it was like a group of like 10 little girls, and one of them was like, Samantha, we have to go home. Rachel's drunk. And then Rachel just comes out all smiling and wobbly-headed. She's like, I love it here. And it's like, oh, yeah, I remember that kind of drunk. It's been a while.
Yeah. I mean, I still go a little overboard with alcohol.
But you get bombed, but not like that, where it's like, what is happening to my vision? You know? It's like, I'm getting drunk.
Yeah. I'm either buzzed or I'm blacked out.
You black out?
I do. I used to black out all the time. I quit drinking for 3 years, and then I seemed to correct it. And
now you drink again, you're okay?
Yeah. I drink like a normal person now. I mean...
A normal comedian?
A normal comedian.
Okay. That's way more than a normal person. If you go to the doctor, like, how much you drink? Like, not much. I mean, 4 times a week. I'm like, wait, what?
That's like smoking weed. I'm like, I don't really smoke weed. How often do you have? Like once a week. I smoke weed, which to me is like not smoking weed at all.
Rogan and Red Band once were like making fun of me because I was turning into a pothead. They're like, "It's pot." I'm like, "No, I'm not." They're like, "Yeah, you're high all the time." I was like, "I haven't got high all day today." And like, that's a pothead who brags about not getting high in the day we're in. Like, it's been 14 hours and you haven't gotten high yet. Yeah. People don't get high for a month, you idiot.
How long did you smoke daily?
A long time. 7 years, maybe.
Oh, yeah. I slowed down. I did that for like 3 or 4 years. That was when I first started. Like, weed was my first one that I fell in. I didn't like alcohol when I first started drinking.
Oh, really?
But yeah, the first time I got high, I laughed for like 6 hours straight.
Yeah, but that laughing stuff goes away after a while.
It does.
It's like you're still trying to get back chase that dragon, but like, you're not really getting back there. Occasionally you still get the giggles.
Yeah. I do think that psychedelics are the only things where it seems like there's lots more experiences that can keep opening up to you, whereas most other things, like...
It dampens.
Fucking cocaine or something like that is like... The first line of cocaine that you ever have in life will be the best one, and it's all downhill after that.
Heroin and meth too, right?
I imagine. I haven't... Well...
Movies.
I mean, I've done... pain pills and stuff, and there was definitely diminishing returns. Really? Oh yeah.
Well, there's something too. It was like, I don't know how this is gonna go.
Yeah.
And like once you do know, it's like, all right, well, it's not there.
Yeah, and then like there's like one night where I just went a little overboard, had one too many of those pills. It was when I was injured, and so I had a lot of times I wouldn't take them, and then I'd just save them up and have like a few on a particularly depressing day or whatever, or hanging out with friends, and you're so functional, and you just feel like a million, and it's like everything's gonna be great, like what could go wrong, and then it's very easy, especially if you have like the higher doses, which are hard to get.
Pain pills.
Yeah, it is pretty easy to take one too many of those.
Yeah, they just keep going down. That's what everybody does too. They're like, oh, I'm feeling so good. It's like, give me some more of those. And it's like, ride it, man.
Yeah. I know. It's hard for the brain to learn that lesson.
I feel like that's what they should teach children with alcohol. Instead of like, don't drink because that's ridiculous. They're going to drink. You know, when their friends start drinking, they're going to drink too.
When you start feeling good, stop.
Yeah, go water for a while.
Yeah.
You know, ride that.
I still have not learned that lesson very well. I mean, I'm better at it now.
I mean, your fucking judgment's down for sure.
Yeah,
when you are drunk.
Yeah.
You got any more of those? It's like, you're good.
Yeah. Some people don't black out at all. Do you black out?
I've never blacked out.
You've never blacked out?
I don't know what it means.
Huh.
I mean, I know what it means, but like... I've never been without recording.
Completely zero recollection. You completely like lose consciousness, but you're still like out and about and moving, and there's like this different thing that's taken over your body. It's kind of terrifying. Damn. It's like that's the main reason why I quit. The first, I mean, it was causing me problems with relationships and stuff, but blacking out was starting to get a little too scary for me. And then you start blacking out like sooner and sooner.
Really?
Yeah.
Like the body just knows like it's time to shut off.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of things work that way. I mean, I feel like mushrooms can be like that too.
Kick in instantly?
Well, like now that I do DMT, I feel like I can get to a DMT place when I do mushrooms.
Oh, right. You think it's just like a
just for like 5 or 10 minutes.
Really?
Or if I'm in a float tank. Which I only did
you
once.
Opened up, you know the way.
What's that?
Because you know the way.
Yeah, I feel that way. I mean, the one time I did mushrooms in a float tank, it took no effort to all of a sudden be in. It was maybe not as intense and fast. It was like clearer and slowed down a little bit. I don't know what ayahuasca is like to break through, because my 2 ayahuasca experiences that I had were incredibly disappointing.
Really?
And I didn't have enough, and so then I'm just in a room full of people vomiting and stuff with like a really clear like mushroom high is basically all that it felt like.
I want to wander around.
Yeah, I was like, I want to go outside and not listen to this. This guy's like blowing smoke in my hair and stuff, and
you're like, it's not doing it, man.
Yeah.
It's like when a girl's blowing you, and after some point, you're like, hey, you may as well just stop. I don't. I don't think it's going there.
And then everyone dressed in white and whatnot.
Really? They're running the bulls.
There's a ton of people dressed in white, which is like, if you know you're going to be puking.
Barf, yeah.
Yeah.
Wear brown.
Yeah, camouflage.
Yeah, or rubber.
Yeah, wear rubber.
Yeah. Get a fisherman's
Everyone
outfit.
should have a sacred ceremonial
rubber outfit.
bib.
You need those overalls, those yellow overalls that people like who do fly fishing wear.
And now we put on our sacred overalls.
Just hear those squeaking. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Now I've been doing this psychedelic tour for 22 shows out of 80 now.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
80 shows.
Yeah.
Over how many days?
It goes until mid-February, but it's every night.
Damn.
I have 3 days off now. I have 2 days off Thanksgiving, and then I have a Christmas break. And then after that, it's regular. But I've been going every night since the beginning of the month. And I'm getting tired and making mistakes and stuff.
In your set?
No, just just in my doing computer work and that sort of stuff, like the things that I need to do for marketing and reaching out to people. I'm like just slipping behind on everything. I imagine how did you manage when you had more things to juggle in your career?
Well, I fell behind. Even this podcast, where it's like the more I have, then it's like I have like a podcast recorded. All I got to do is do an intro and an outro, and then like get some music, and it's like, and then it's like it takes me like 5 days to actually get to it.
Yeah,
so I'll just miss a week because I'm like, I don't have the 5 hours it's gonna take.
I know.
I just don't want to watch TV or something, or just like I've got other things going on.
I just did that. I was in I don't have any free time, and so all I need to do is load up these episodes. Takes like 6 hours or whatever with a shitty internet connection. And so if I'm in a hotel, sometimes if they have shitty internet, the thing will skip out and I can't upload it. And this is something that is like a nothing problem most of the time. But when you have no time, all of a sudden it's like, I guess I don't have an episode this week. Yeah. Any little thing can throw you off.
Yeah, there's a lot of those where it's like, okay, I got to go. I can press upload and then leave to the club or something like that.
Yeah.
And I know it'll be uploaded when I get back. And then it's like, oh no, that was going to take 35 minutes and your connection went out. It's like, fuck.
Yeah, it's and I would have thought I would have learned this lesson from my parents, because they have they're like the hardest workers I've ever met in my life, and they work themselves silly. But there's this idea that we have that if you just work harder, it will be, but people don't people think like sleep is the enemy
Yeah.
of work, whereas you need those breaks have you ever heard of the Pomodoro technique?
No. Is that for masturbation?
Yeah, it's just like masturbation mostly.
Two-handed rubbing.
It's just the idea is that you work steadily for 20 to 30 minutes. Everyone's a little different, but that's like basically how long the human attention span can really, really focus well.
Yeah.
And then you just stop. You do whatever the hell you feel like for like 5 or 10 minutes. You can check the computer, watch TV, whatever, do some push-ups, whatever you feel like doing for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then you go back to it. And 20 to 30 minutes doesn't seem like a long time to commit to something, Sometimes it's hard to get the ball rolling. And then it gives, because I think people don't give the non-conscious enough credit. When you have like some shitty joke idea and you're like, fuck it. And then you just forget about it, and then like a month later, it pops back into your head, and it's
you have
the
a tagline. You have a actually ending to it now. Yeah.
Like, what the fuck was it doing down there? It just like went in this like disheveled idea, and then pops back out, just like ready to work for you.
Yeah. That's a guy cleaning the trash out there.
Oh, I was.
Sounds like it's in here, right?
It does sound like it's in here. I was like, Do you have a cat?
Yeah. I mean, it's right outside.
Yeah.
The only bad place about this apartment is the trash is right outside my door.
That's my
that makes sense too. It's like there is a diminishing returns with work where it's like I'm not getting as much done. I remember when I was trying to write, it was like eventually I have to be like, and that was more than 30 minutes, but like I had to be like, I'm gonna go watch like an episode of Martin or something.
Yeah.
To like just clear my head and then get back to it, start up again.
Yeah, I was. So I wasn't, normally I do this as often as I can, and then I try to work in just like 5 quick minutes of meditation here and there, just to, if I'm, like I show up to a place early and I just meditate in my car for 5 minutes before I go in, and I'm just, when I do that, I'm more creative and I'm getting better ideas.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't doing that for like the last 2 months. I just been in front of a computer, just type it, like still having some gigs to confirm, and because I'm helping my agent with some of this stuff. And just making all sorts of mistakes, and then I needed a haircut. I couldn't even find time to get a haircut. I went to one of those fancy places where you get like the neck massage and like the whole deal as well. Yeah. And I just closed my eyes and meditated while that was happening, and it was like 45 minutes or so, and I solved like 10 major problems that I had with this tour, with like promotion and marketing stuff and lining a few things up. I just needed to give my brain just a second to process. So our consciousness is like 99, or is like 0.001% of what our brain is actually doing. It's even people, there's some blind people where they're consciously blind, and then they'll flash like a colored light, and they're like, "What color do you see?" And they're like, "I'm blind.
I don't know.
You're being an asshole."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Just take a wild guess," and they'll get the color right.
Really?
Because there's a part of their brain that's getting it. There's people with like,
I'm blind. You're being an asshole. Stop bothering me. Try it, blindo.
There's people with like really bad memory problems with like Alzheimer's and stuff like that, and they won't. You'll have to introduce yourself to them every time you see them. Yeah. They'll never remember you. But if you like one day, this guy took a pin, and when they went to shake hands, poked the person with the pin, and then the next day they didn't remember their name still, but they were just, for whatever reason, they were just a little nervous around them, and so their brain somewhere in there remembered that.
Really?
Yeah,
the stress.
Yeah, and so your brain makes all these weird associations. So that's another thing.
My friend's dream once he had, where he was trying to figure out how to what a word was in a dream, and he couldn't figure it out. And then he went to a thesaurus, in his dream, and he looked up the word, and then he found out what it was. like it was there the whole time. It wasn't a real thesaurus.
Yeah, I know, it's so crazy. I mean, I could have a dream where you're in it and talking to me, and I'm actually writing every word that's coming out of your mouth and doing a perfect impersonation of you.
Yeah.
And there might be fucking elephants and who knows whatever else around. And I don't even realize I don't even realize. I think it's happening to me rather than me creating it. And your brain does that like nothing. Like you literally do it in your sleep. Like you wake up well rested. That took no cognitive
8 seconds
energy.
too. It happens so fast. It's less time than riding a bull.
And I don't know. Because it seems like, because when you smoke DMT, you'll get that time dilation too, where it seems like you'll see
Forever.
Yeah, it seems like I've seen like the creation of all the universes or something like that, all in like, well, it must have been 10 seconds, you know? And it's
that's what people say too, where they're like, I had music on when I was doing DMT, and I guess I must have had it on loop because I came back and it was still the same song. I must have had it on repeat. And then it's like, no, not really.
Yeah,
It's been gone for not as long as you thought.
Yeah, because I know how long it's been based on what stage that I'm at.
Yeah.
Like when I'm kind of leaving, I'm like, oh, it's wearing off. It's been 5 minutes.
Really?
But when I'm within that first 5 minutes, I get lost in time and space. And I don't know how we put together time and everything. I mean, think about, everything's so subjective. Think about how like a mayfly has like a 4-day lifespan or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's still like, it would seem just as full of a life to that.
Yeah, they still go. Yeah, if I have 4 days left, it's like I'm not flying around everywhere. I'm just gonna kind of hang out and do my thing.
And the reverse is, if you offered them like 2 weeks more, they'd be like, "What? Why would I? What would I do with that time?"
Yeah, children also. It's like you tell them, it's like, "Oh, we're getting Christmas in 3 weeks." I'm like, "Fuck, are you kidding me? That's forever."
Yeah.
But now it's like, "Fuck, I only have 3 weeks till Christmas. I gotta do my shopping. I gotta do all this stuff."
Yeah.
You know, it seems like no time because you've been, What is this stuff about stressors you wanted to tell me?
Oh yeah, so I have this. I've been reading a lot about, and I talk a lot about cognitive biases.
Yeah. Well, hold on. First, where's your tour going, or how can people find your tour? Let's do that.
Just go to ShaneMauss.com.
MAUSS.
Yeah. And
You got fucking 58 cities left.
I have, something like that, at least. I think I have over 60 cities left. I'm still adding on a few dates, and then I might go to Australia after that and do international
All psychedelic
stuff.
hour.
Yeah. It's like an hour and a half. I do it solo, and
Dude, that's a perfect Edinburgh hour.
Yeah.
You'd have to shorten it to one.
Yeah,
60 minutes.
I can do that.
Yeah.
It's going great. People love it. So anyway, one of my favorite things about my podcast is understanding cognitive biases, and I have this kind of idea that I'm trying to run by people. That's about how I think that people are possibly have a psychological allergy to just life, our modern life, and that's where
psychological allergy to our modern life.
Anxieties and stuff. So I'll explain. So we have these well-studied negativity biases, like people. The idea is it comes from engineering. If there's a smoke alarm can't be perfect. You have to assume that a smoke alarm can err. A smoke alarm can err in two ways. It can either
go off or not go off.
Go off or not go off. And if it goes off when it's not supposed to, that's annoying. If it doesn't go off when it is supposed to, people die.
Yeah.
And so there's a higher cost there. So they intentionally bias smoke alarms to make them overly sensitive and overreactive.
Yeah.
And our brains have been biased in the same way because those ancestors that were skittish about every little movement in the brush were the ones that never missed the lion that was in there.
Dude,
Most of the time,
you should
it was
see me
nothing.
hiking. The amount of fright I get from squirrels. so many squirrels have fucking made me shit my pants. They're like, oh my god, what is that? Oh, another tiny little nothing creature that's never going to attack me.
I know, and we're not good at statistical reasoning, really.
Like, there are no bears in these woods. There's no lions. Fucking chill out.
Even with like people being scared of insects. So I did the last podcast that I did was actually interviewing a guy who studies the evolution of stings, and my podcast is called Here We Are, by the way, but he has been stung by like 90 different insects, and he rates them on this pain scale of how intense they are and everything.
Really?
And he had the most painful one there in his house, and I was trying to get stung by it.
Let's see.
I just wanted to see. I was like, so there's no like medical
long-term damage.
Yeah, he's like, it's just really quick, and I think his review of it is that it feels like being chained to flowing lava. And just relentless. And I was, so this is the most painful insect on earth. And I was pressing on it. I was like petting the thing, and the thing still wouldn't sting me. And not only that, but males don't sting. They haven't evolved for it. Because the stinger came from offshoot of the egg carrying device. So you're 50% less likely to get stung than you even think, and then the chance of getting stung by something. So most people react to like a common like daddy long legs or whatever those spiders are that are completely harmless with the same amount of fear that yeah, and it's because we also have this kind of pattern forming software where that runs along the same things. This is called apophenia, when you, like, children see clouds as shapes and stuff, or people see Jesus in toast or whatever.
Yeah.
That's when you are making a pattern that doesn't actually exist, and it's the same sort of logic. If you wake up in the middle of the night because you hear cans or whatever in the hallway, and you think someone's breaking in, and it just ends up being a cat. So the cost is that,
no big deal.
Yeah, it was a little stressful and everything, but yeah. So you're and stress effect on the body takes so long before it causes lots of cardiovascular problems and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and lots of memory issues and stuff. But you can still, evolution doesn't have a chance to really weed it out on the back end because you've already bred. It's kind of like why there's cancer, is because you've already passed your genes. So
now you can break down.
Yeah, so evolution didn't have a chance to weed you out of there. You already passed those genes on.
Even though people get cancer younger, although when they're getting younger, it's still like in their 20s and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's children
kids,
with cancer, but that's also just kind of a byproduct of cancer being out and about because it hasn't been given a good chance to weed it out. The majority of people get it when they're older.
Yeah, for sure.
And
I'm definitely getting it. I've already resigned myself to it.
And see, this is I think we're kind of wired to feel this way. So in our ancestral environment, there were times when a quarter of our population would just be wiped out. There's times when there's only a couple bands of like 50 humans around. There's hardly any humans whatsoever. Where we were on the endangered species list, and these threats were really real, and these people that did happen to be very scared and nervous probably left out more prodigy. And so the problem with the stress response is that it's the exact same basically in every mammal. So there's this great book, Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, by my favorite scientist, Robert Sapolsky, who studies stress and primates and stuff like that. The idea is that a lion goes to catch a zebra, and both the zebra and the lion have the exact same stress response, which is it's these fancy, it doesn't matter, but glucocorticoids that release this cortisol into your bloodstream, and they delegate energy from your digestion and all of that to your legs, and powers you to we don't need an immune system right now. We don't need our sex drive. This is no time for a boner. Let's just get the hell out of here. And then what happens is when they get away, that there's this what's called a parasympathetic response that dials everything back down. They're like, okay, I don't need to run anymore. And then they go back to eating grass. The immune system starts up again. And humans have this ability to perceive all of these subjective threats and perceive in so far into the future that we are setting off this same stress response when thinking about like a 401k.
Really?
We
are. I'm going to die poor.
It's the exact same stress response being activated as if you were being chased by a lion. Maybe not quite as intense, but it's not giving. It's never given a chance to dial down, and so now everyone's like, no one can get boners anymore, and we all have.
Because you're constantly thinking about.
You're constantly stressed, and our digestion is out of whack, and so when you see like a pear-shaped figure rather than just evenly distributed, that's a very
it's a stressor.
Good sign of lots of stress, because stress displaces fat slightly differently.
Oh, instead of all over
in the body. Oh. Yeah, and so you can kind of see who's under a tremendous amount of stress, and then it causes all sorts of obesity. Yeah, and stress can cause both obesity and you can be underweight as well, because when you're under stress, you don't feel like eating. So if you're under constant stress, you'll never have an appetite. But if you have a break from it, what happens is you're stressing out all day at work, and then you get done and you're out of calories, and you want to get them in as fast as you can. So you just plow down a bucket of ice cream, kind of like that's the people have desserts and whatnot to soothe their pain or whatever. So it can work in all of these different ways. So the thing is none of these threats are as real as our body's making them out to be, for the most part. We live in a pretty safe...
That is white people problems. They aren't real problems.
Yeah. 401ks is white people problems. Yeah. Definitely not like running from a lion kind of a problem. And so much in the same way that we have evolved to be, sometimes people are a little OCD, because in our ancestral environment, there was no way you could ever clean enough to get rid of all of the bugs and all of the disease and parasites and everything. You just couldn't clean too much. And now we have Lysol and all this stuff. And so now we live in these super sterile environments, and what's happening is people are set up, they have an immune system set up to take in and manage a certain number of threats that are no longer in our environment.
What do you mean? Like what? Manage a certain number of threats that are no longer in our environment. Okay.
Like the malaria or various diseases that would have been more prevalent in our old past. That is now we've kind of sanitized everything. I'm not saying. I mean, there's still colds and flus and AIDS, and there's still diseases and whatnot. You okay, by the way?
No, I got something in my neck, and then when I swallow, it hurts like fuck.
Oh.
The doctor said it was just like a mucus ball. And it went away, but then it's like back yesterday. So every time I swallow, it fucking kills. It's all right.
Well, maybe you're dying. Yeah. Not to set off that stress response.
He said I got to go on antibiotics, and they gave me antibiotics, and it said take 2 a day for 7 days. And I don't know why. I just read it as take 1 a day, and I'm like, I guess they gave me some extra ones. And then I got 5 days in. I was like, oh, dude, I did this wrong. What am I supposed to do now? I took 1 a day for 5 days, and I've got, 9 left over. And he's like, I'm sure it'll go away anyway. Don't worry about it. And then it sort of did, but now it's back. And I can't take the antibiotics. I got to shoot that special next week, so I got to I can't get all groggy and tired from antibiotics.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll go in on Monday. But it just happened yesterday. It fucking sucks.
What's the special?
Stand-up special.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Where?
Cap City.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, you lived there, right? For a while.
Yeah. With that, are you using their background, or are you putting up a different one? Yeah. That's why I was nervously like, are you?
I don't know if. No, we're building one. That's costing me the most money. Is building this new background and covering up the walls that look like a fucking airplane hangar.
Yeah.
It look okay.
I mean, it looks fine and everything, but not for a
good.
special.
Yeah, exactly. Chris Rock, I heard him talk about somebody's special, and he was saying it wasn't that good, and he goes, "That wasn't even a special. That was a regular." So you don't want a regular.
Oh yeah, right. So this is where allergies come from. Is someone has an overactive immune system, where now you're getting a little dander in, and your immune system's going, this is a threat. This is why when you keep people in a bubble more, the more susceptible they are to allergies, and
because they have no like Indians with alcohol.
Right. And they haven't had exposure to it. Some people for treatment of allergies, for extreme allergies, will actually expose themselves. Like there's
small amounts.
Yeah, there's this dude that we used to. I saw it on 2020 or something years ago. I remember it caught my. I don't know how valid any of this is, but it stuck with me. He just couldn't. He was just allergic to everything, and so he just went barefoot. After doing some research about how disease works and stuff, he just went barefoot around latrines and in third world countries.
What?
And ended up getting all these different parasites and stuff. And then when he had an actual threat, then his immune system was able to work on the actual threat and put aside all of that little stuff. So all the allergy is overreacting to something that actually isn't harmful.
Oh, like your eyes watering when there's a little bit of pollen.
Yeah,
suddenly running to get this out of my eyes.
Pollen is not a threat.
Right.
It's just a misperception because the immune system's like, well, we've evolved for there's going to be X number of threats in this environment, and so when there's none, it's like, well, what the fuck?
Wow.
And so it becomes more sensitive, and I think that's how we are with our anxieties and depression. I think that people are acting like traffic jams.
Yeah,
just being like
freaks people out sometimes.
Oh, I mean, I have some of the fucking worst road rage imaginable.
Yeah.
And since learning
some
about
people, you just want to be like, hey, you need to calm down.
I know.
What is going on with you right now? It's not that big a deal. Your flight gets delayed or something.
So much better.
And you're like, we didn't have a show tonight, so we're gonna get there at 7 instead of 6. Like, dude, relax.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
I know. And sometimes, I mean, sometimes you don't even have anywhere to go.
Yeah, exactly.
You're just driving to the grocery store or something. Like,
fucking move.
What the fuck is going on? And that...
Put on some tunes.
That's what's killing people, because that's you perceiving that as an actual, a real threat. And that's not a threat.
Yeah.
And then it's an inconvenience. And inconveniences are, sure, there's a cost there, but this is not life-threatening, and your body is acting as if it is.
Yeah.
And so that's where people are. A lot of these panic disorders, and that's actually what panic attacks are, is because there's no real threat. So your brain goes, just something triggers it. Yeah. In your non-conscious that you don't realize and you don't know what it is. Just something triggers it.
Some sort of panic.
Some panic, and you can't put your finger on it. And so then that panic releases this cascade of hormones that that make your palms sweaty, and there's a physiological response to it. And then there's another part of your brain that is taking in information from your physiology that is going like, hey, there must be some stress out there because my palms are sweaty, and it's pumping that back into the original the originator of that feeling.
Wait, back up. Say that
So it's
again.
this feedback loop. So you have one part of the brain essentially setting off a stress response, making your palms sweaty in the first place. That just comes along with the stress response.
Over nothing, like you heard a sound that reminds you of another sound.
Yeah, you might not even consciously heard. Like deja vu. Who knows how deja vu works? Maybe you like take a step in this awkward way that you did one other time before, and and then it's like this is familiar, and you don't know why it's familiar.
Yeah.
Just like the person that got poked has no idea the next day that person poked them. They just like know that they don't.
A lighter version of like when there's a shower pressure drop, you jump out of the water because you know it's gonna I'd be scalding hot, even though most time it's not. But like, but that one you're conscious of. You're like, this means I'm going to be getting burned or cold.
Right, but then at least you know, and you can take action. The panic attacks is when you don't know, so then the part of your brain receiving information from your body is sensing that you're stressed because your body has all these signals of being stressed, and then that's communicating to the part that manages stress. So it pumps out more hormones. So there's this feedback loop that intensifies. There's all these feedback loops in our brain. Like if you stand in front of a mirror and smile, that part of the brain that like receives information will see you smile and be like, oh, I'm smiling. Something must be going right.
Really?
Yeah. It will actually make
you happy?
most people happier if you you'll feel like a fucking lunatic. But that's how dumb our brains
Looking at yourself
are.
smiling, you're like, I got some fun. Wow, that's hilarious.
Yeah, I guess things are working out. So, so how much we're, so much of our well-being and how we feel has nothing to do with the actual like environment and the reality of the situation we find ourselves in. It has more to do with just whatever little chemical imbalance we happen to be going through. Just like, psychedelics will take you on a roller coaster ride sometimes where it's like 1 second you can be the happiest and the next second you can be the saddest ever. And nothing actually changed. There wasn't any different information. It just kind of emphasizes who you are, and so you get just kind of this tour of your emotions in a way, and it has nothing to do with anything from the outside. It's all
real
in your head. And so yeah, that's kind of the idea that I'm toying around with at the moment. And
so then how would you control that or something, or how would you use that to your benefit, or you just notice it?
Well, I think that
like I've had to do this where I remember being on a flight with Rogan and Red Band and landing and not getting a lot of sleep the night before and snapping at one of them. I forget who. And then one of them was just mocking me. I forget, it was a long time ago, so I forget the exact details. One of them was just like, "Oh, you tired?"
Yeah.
But then I was like, "Fuck you, shut up," But then like a few hours later, I was like, "Oh no, I was tired."
Yeah.
And that is making me snap. It's like when you quit cigarettes, it's a real thing. Your body is losing this nicotine it's used to, or something like that. And it's like, oh, so then from then on, I tried to be like, "You're tired. Be careful because you're in a weird position." It's like when you're driving tired. Like, hey, spend real attention. Don't be playing with the radio because you're fucking about to pass out.
Yeah. This is
so
yeah. I mean, I think that making be more mindful of it. So there's this amazing study where they. It's one of my favorites, where you're going to go in and do this survey, and you get in the elevator to go up. You don't realize that the study is actually taking place in the elevator.
Yeah.
This is one of them. Science is always using these little tricks.
Yeah. To fool you into not thinking.
And there's someone in the elevator, a Confederate, who. An actor, who is like, "My hands are full. Can you hold this drink for me?" And someone will take the drink and then hand it back off to them when they're off the elevator and, okay, bye. And then they go in and they take this survey that has nothing to do with anything. And then at the end, they go, "Did you meet anyone on the way in?" Oh, actually, there's one person in the elevator. And they go, "Well, can you describe that person?" And if the person if if the person handed them a warm beverage,
They remembered more?
would often call them warm or
really?
friendly, and if they handed them a cold beverage, they would often describe them as being like cold or distant.
Wow.
And so our brains, these kind of fancier thoughts that we have, had to evolve later on in our evolutionary history, and they had to evolve on top of this more simple kind of instinctual wiring that we already had. And so most of our many of our ideas are these kind of metaphors based on physical realities. Like you call someone bright or deep or shallow or you're feeling down or up. These are all meaningless things existentially.
Yeah, you do not feel up.
Yeah. It's or high.
Yeah.
You're not.
Yeah.
And why would up be good?
Yeah, right.
And up's not even up. This is as much up as my feet are in the sense of like the universe.
Right.
You know, I'm still
Slightly off
up is every direction. It just depending. It's all relative.
Oh, yeah.
And as is down, I mean, it's completely arbitrary. You can say up compared to where I'm standing right now, or something. And why would that be good? Maybe it's good because kind of we're fighting against gravity. So anytime that you're able to like raise, or if you're able to jump up higher or something like that, that's kind of a good thing. What's that?
It's like it's a win against this force.
I don't know. I mean, who knows where these things come? But maybe like the idea of like maybe being able to climb, you're kind of being able to master this force that's
I can see the warm
you.
drink being good as opposed to the cold drink, just because like the feeling you get from holding warmth is like, this is a nice feeling.
Yeah.
And cold is kind of like, it hurts a little.
And I remember this was highlighted for me when I broke my feet and I had to crawl down a mountain for a few hours.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I can't get into the story, by the way, if a listener, because whatever, I've talked about it a million times, but I made an album about it. If you really want to hear the whole story.
Broke your feet rock climbing.
Yeah. Well, hiking actually.
Just
I
hiking?
wish I would have been rock climbing.
Were you jumping from one rock to another?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm an adrenaline junkie. I was in the best shape of my life. I was working out like 3 hours a day at the time.
I remember when I saw you in Australia, you were like, had quit drinking, and you were just like, I'm doing shit. I got to go rock climbing today.
Yeah.
There's a new wall I got to get to.
Yeah. I was climbing like every day.
I was like, I'm going to get a fucking ramen burger. So have fun with that.
I had a ramen burger as well.
Yeah. Point, we're in line together.
I was fitting a lot in back when I was full of energy. But I remember when I broke my feet, the funniest thing that I noticed about it was, fortunately, I'd started meditating like 6 months before it, because it really helped me become more mindful and deal with it and separate myself from the pain a little bit.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking, like, I was like, this whole world sucks. Like the whole world's broken. I'm like, on the way down, I need to get to a hospital to take care of my feet. And I'm sitting there thinking about like politics,
really?
and how, honestly, like how elections are bullshit, and like, why would you be thinking about
Instead
that?
of just your feet.
You just project it. It was broken. And I remember another time, after I had my second surgery, and I had this big hole in my foot.
Oh yeah, it's a little divot there.
That I had to like, it was miserable. I had to like clean it out and change my bandages. It was this big hole. But anyway, sorry, it's so gross. I know.
What is that response?
That response
little
is
tingling
like
in your elbow and your solar plex, in your butt. Where it's like,
empathy. So thank you. But empathy is another thing where people think like empathy is like, if you're an empathetic person, that you're like gullible or like some bleeding heart or something, whereas empathy is just understanding, and you want to understand as much as you can about that world. But that's how scared people are, like, I can't go caring about things too much. But I remember when I had this hole in my foot, I was like, I didn't realize this was what was going on, but I just remember there was a week where I just felt like empty and I felt like there was like something like really important missing from my life, and I like couldn't put my finger on it. If it was like if I was lonely because I wasn't dating, like I couldn't figure it out. And then one day I was like, oh, there's a fucking hole in my foot. That's
like, maybe that's it.
Yeah. And ever since
laid up in bed for all this time and I fucking can't move. Could it be that?
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, well, the Yankees aren't doing great this year. Maybe it's that too. No, it's the hole.
Yeah. You try to. Your brain makes up these fancy explanations for what's happening. This is like what consciousness is this story that you're kind of telling yourself to justify the actions that your brain's already taken, more or less. I mean, that might be an extreme version of what. An extreme interpretation of consciousness. We probably have a little bit of conscious force in there, but I don't think that we are anywhere near aware of how influenced we are by, like, if you're a little sleepy, you're going to be irritable, and you're going to take that out on other people. That's not other people's problem. That's your fucking problem.
Yeah, I'm the one sleepy.
And so many people don't. It's hard to be your brain loves to tell you that it has it figured out and its interpretation of reality is absolutely the right one, and you're seeing things clearly, and we never learn our lesson either. No matter how
never
many
learn the lesson.
mistakes we make.
You know how I see that now? It's in this politics stuff where you've got your candidate that you support, and then some people will be talking online, and they'll be like, well, I think they do, I'm not even going to say he or she, but they do this and this and this that I like. And then someone else will go, oh, actually, you might not have known this. They actually do this and this real negative. Like they're pro-fracking candidate or anti-fracking. And they're like, no, they're pro-fracking. They voted on fracking for this and this. And then you go, well, I'm sure in some cases fracking is good. It's like you took the new information and didn't change your opinion in any way.
Yeah.
Like it's still just as set.
Oh, what's that bias called? There's something where new information actually makes people like, no, I will. They've done studies where they kind of present this idea and teach people like some idea, some fact about something. And then the next day they'll be like, oh, we were wrong about that, and that was bad information. And people will be like, no.
So they did this study on doctors where a new research will come out. So a doctor says, like, eat a lot of red meat. It's good for you. And then the studies come out say red meat is bad for you. But I'm talking about in cases of, like, medicines, actually.
Right.
But this will be easier. And then it took the doctors, once they even read that new report, it said red meat is bad for you, they would still tell people, eat red meat. Right. Even though they've read the new scientific studies. Not like, well, who said it? Like, they know who said it, and they like, trust that source. But they will still give the old information.
Right.
Or imagine if, like, the whole basis is, like, I was only support a candidate who is like, forget about all the other stuff. I only care about fracking. And so you're like, that's why I like this person. And you're like, they are anti-fracking. And you're like, I still am into them. You said just the one thing that you're into, you're like, no. You got actual statistical evidence. And you're like,
Well, one sort of way around it is rather than like debating doesn't seem to work in any way.
No.
But there is this there's this illusion of explanatory depth that we have where we just assume we know how everything works. You ask someone how a toilet works. You know how a toilet works? Oh, sure. You flush it and the water goes down. Like, how does it do that? Like, what's the process? And they're like, fucking. Who knows? I don't know that.
Nobody in the world knows.
There's only a handful of people that actually know how toilets work. But we tell ourselves that we know just how it works, just like global warming or anything. Like, global warming's pretty complicated. The greenhouse effect is you have to understand that light beams are narrow enough that they pass through light. They actually don't hit anything. Most matter is empty space, and glass has a configuration with more empty space in it, and the light beams actually pass through, heat up the air, and then the air is trapped. The windows are more dense than the air is, so it can't get out. That's why greenhouses work. And then what carbon does is it rises. It's buoyant enough that it rises up into the atmosphere, but dense enough that it will stop at a certain point. And once it does, it becomes dense, and light, not dense enough that light can't get through it. Light can still get through it just fine, but the warm air that would normally rise and leave our environment now is trapped in this layer and can't get out. And that's a super simplified version of how global warming works. That is not taking in like a million other factors that I don't even fucking understand.
Okay.
But people assume like, oh, I know how global warming works. Like the ice caps melt or whatever, and you're stupid for not believing it. It's like, well, no one knows how it works exactly. I mean, NASA knows how it works pretty well. That's why we should definitely listen to NASA and not like whatever fucking hillbilly's idea of a conspiracy or whatever. But the idea is that instead of arguing with someone, if you just ask them like, well, how does that work? And you make them explain it, they'll never be able to.
Right. Then they'll tell you, oh, I guess I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
On their own.
And then that opens up and you're like, oh, I guess I don't. And then you can look into it, you know,
like,
and then
find out
once
how
you can get
greenhouses
people
work or how the toilet works.
Exactly. And then
instead of pushing them into a position of like they've taken a position on it, I know how toilets work.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then when you're like, I have to fight for that to justify. Nietzsche said that, where it's, I always say this, but like once you verbalize something, it becomes way stronger in your mind. Once you actually like outright say, like, usually I compare it to like, I don't like this guy.
Yeah.
It's like if you were hanging around and someone was, I was like, I don't think I like Shane Mauss.
Yeah.
From then on, when I see you, it had this negative reaction. I couldn't let you come out of that place in my mind because I've said it.
I've actually tried to like watch people or listen to their podcast to people that just rubbed me the wrong way on a first impression, just to be like,
let me give them a chance.
Yeah, I don't want to like. It's a small community. I don't want to go around hating. And I've gained respect for people that I just, you know, they were probably in a bad mood or whatever that first time around. And I mean, I still have problems with everyone. I'm not fucking perfect. But yeah, I think that, and I think introducing new information in another way that people have no place for. Like most people have never heard of like what a cognitive bias is, right? And this is still talking about life, stuff that we all sort of know already, but it's just framing it in a different way. And so then people don't have any place to put it. And so they don't have any they have no argument for it.
What? Their cognitive bias?
Like if you explain a concept that they don't already have a clear made up belief on. Like say if you're introducing this new concept that they haven't already learned and formed their own opinions on.
Yeah.
Like if I want to talk about why you should be Democrat or Republican, it doesn't matter what I say.
People already decided.
People are already Democrat or Republican, which the idea that we have two fucking parties, by the way, is so asinine. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Well, they said the only people that change are like newly drafted NBA players. Because as soon as they're like Democrat, and as soon as they get drafted, see how much money they make, like, oh, I'm a Republican now. I want my money.
It takes a real strong force.
That's like the third thing they do. Buy the mama house, switch parties.
So
it is ridiculous to have a two-party system. Whenever people talk about like Obama can't get shit done because the Republicans are fucking blocking him, I'm like, well, it's the government, you guys. Why are they fucking bitter feudists? Yeah. Those Republicans aren't all racist assholes. Ron Paul wasn't a racist asshole.
No.
A lot of them are really smart, forward thinkers, but they're just like this infighting, and so we can't get anything done we want because they're fucking babies.
It's because of debates too. It's like I was like, why the fuck? Because I used to think the debates were important. Yeah. Like the only time when they're not going around giving ridiculous pep talks. Now I'm like, they're the worst.
They still do it. They know there's an untruth coming, and they're like, I'm going to do it anyway because you know what? Nobody's going to check me right now. They'll check me in 2 days, and most people don't read PolitiFact or whatever.
Yeah.
So like, I'll just say it. Most people believe what I say instead of like what they find out later.
Right. And
it's all garbage.
Yeah, it is such garbage. And the funny thing is like these are just spokespeople. Like the president's not doing anything. That's why they're going around like giving talks and stuff everywhere to like little town halls. And like you could just get on YouTube and say like whatever important shit that you needed to say.
Everybody, here's where I said it
to the world and put it out there. I mean, you're the president. You can just go on TV and all the
Whenever you
channels
want.
will shut off and you can say what you want to say if what you have to say is fucking important, but it's just not that important. The fundraising is the important part. So you go and they're just putting together these little routines, you know, just like stand-ups do, and then they're touring around with them.
So lame.
And
you know, like they have our best interest in mind. It's like, nah, there's a lot of shit that goes into that.
yeah, I mean,
But yeah, once you have your party already set, you're like, that's set now.
yeah. Why
Dave Smith said
have
this.
a party? Why would one fucking person represent everything. that I believe?
Well, like, what if I'm Democrat and everything, but I'm pro-life? Then suddenly I'm not Democrat because fucking 20 years ago, 30 years ago, Reagan's fucking colluded himself with the Christians, with the Catholics, so they had to become like
Right.
Republicans had to be pro-life. I mean,
Yeah,
So, but
yeah.
it's like that's just what one guy did to make a coalition a long time ago. Like they don't represent all of me.
Yeah, I believe
That's
in-
why Spotify's so good. You're finally getting a station that's pretty much all of you. You know,
Yeah.
specifically geared towards you instead of like I
Right.
like K-Rock, but sometimes they play that fucking Avenged Sevenfold. I don't really like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what political parties are. You just go on a radio station and assuming every song they play is for you.
Yeah. I mean, well, I don't understand why there's not online voting still. Like, why aren't we just
Yeah.
voting on every issue rather than having like this representative?
We have because it comes from a time of like I can't go to fucking. I live in Tennessee. I can't go to DC, but I can send my representative up to DC to speak for me.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, that's
now
all-
we can.
It was very necessary.
But now we can.
Yeah, now we
So,
can
like, what are we
all
doing?
represent ourselves.
Yeah.
And they're like they're just getting in the way, and so I mean, so then you go. Well, it's like the fucking. I mean, the news. Speaking of this is the news is what's causing most of this fucking allergy to life that I'm talking about. So there's this one.
Pestilence, death, corruption.
Oh, it's sensationalizing anomalies,
Yeah.
basically.
There's a child rapist in town. Like, oh my God, get my kid inside. You cannot walk home alone. And it's like, dude, this guy got 2 people in a city of 5 million. Like, your child is almost completely safe.
Yeah.
Really safe.
The shark attack you saw on the news was in Australia, actually literally the other side of the world, and you're scared to go in the
In
ocean.
shark-infested waters. Like, in a water where they're like, we have trouble once or twice a year.
Yeah.
And it's like, now you're worried about fucking, in a place where it never comes or it's happened like 3 times ever.
And then the real problem is that, I mean, that's stress will fucking kill you better than anything.
What do you
Because
mean?
cancer is a real problem. Heart disease is a real problem. Obesity is an enormous threat.
Yeah.
To it, and then when people have deteriorated health, it impairs their decision making too, and they just don't do as well. So
People who can't stop eating because they're like, I know I should, but I just want to eat this whole pizza.
yeah, I mean they're
Stop. You don't eat that much. Like, I know, but
they're addicted.
I'll just do it.
Well, that's also I mean, if you're obese, I'm very lucky because I was just born very skinny.
Yeah, me too.
But if you're obese and you start burning fat, obesity wasn't a thing in our ancestral past, and so when you started losing fat, it sends a signal to the brain.
You're gonna die.
That's like, you are losing all of your energy. What's going on?
reserves.
You need to, and it really jacks up your appetite more
really?
and more. So you can't
Forces
you
you
just
to
can't
eat.
fight. It just forces you to eat.
That's why some of those people have to eat like celery with salt on it, because like you need to eat something to like crave satisfy the craving.
Right.
But like when you're eating pizza instead of celery, it's like you will gain weight instead of just like, I gotta get some fresh air.
Right.
How much do you think technology is plays a part on all these stressors? And
Well, I think the news is. I mean, I think the news is pure noise. I don't think there's actually any information in there.
Yeah. The news has moved to Facebook as well.
I think.
Your friends posting things about it, and you're like, oh, what? I should worry about this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so some amounts of stress are actually kind of good for you.
Yeah.
You go on a roller coaster, and you're paying for a stress response.
Yeah.
You're experiencing a stress response, and then afterwards, you're safe, and it dials right back down.
Yeah.
And it's almost like maybe people should be doing that a little more often, just to kind of feel like an actual panic for a second in a controlled way, and then have it dialed down, rather than every day being a little panicked about just everything in the world.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think that maybe technology is. I mean, cars aren't causing. We haven't evolved for this world. We don't understand. We're more worried about like terrorism than we are dying in a car, for example, because
which is way more likely.
Tangible thing, and we don't understand statistics very well. Like even statisticians, they've given them surveys. They'd be like, "What do you think the percentage is of a earthquake causing a fatal flood in California this year?" And then you go. What do you think the percentage is of an earthquake causing a fatal flood in North America this year? And they'll actually rank the
California higher,
the very specific California earthquake as more likely to happen, even though the second one includes California and all of the other regions, and is clearly logically. But our brain loves to latch onto these stories, these very specific things. We aren't good at calculating specific reasoning. And so one thing that the news and technology gives us is these really salient stories. And I do wonder if, I mean, I don't think that like video games cause violence. I don't think that there's much of any evidence for that right now. But it still makes me wonder if there's still, I know that there's a part of your brain that when you're watching TV has no idea that what you're watching is not real.
It's fake, yeah.
I mean, it's a bunch of pixels. You don't think of it as a bunch of pixels on a screen.
Yeah. Same as when you see a beheading video, you're like, that's real. And if you see somebody like shoot a beheading video in Hollywood, you know, it still looks the same.
Yeah.
And make it look real.
I wonder if there's a part of your brain that's like worrying about dragons and shit because you're watching Game of Thrones on this kind of non-conscious level. So I do wonder if we are.
Do you think some of it's because you're constantly being pulled at? Like when some of my
constantly what?
Being pulled at.
Oh yeah.
Because some of my panic comes from like if I get it, it comes from like I've got to do 3 things, and I can't right now. So fuck. Sometimes I'll just implode. Like when you have a dirty room, you're like clean, you just look at it for like 30 minutes. You're like, where do I even start?
I know.
You know, but you end up when it's just like just have to make your bed. You're like, I'll just make the bed.
Yeah.
You know, but like when
kind
you have
broken
like
window effect.
Yeah, and it's like I got to return this email. I got to return these texts. I got to check Facebook. I got to check Twitter. I got to promote my show. I got to. It's just like being pulled in all these directions where you're like, I don't know. I feel like that can cause stress too.
Well, the 2 main contributors to stress are lack of control and the unknown are the 2 main. I'm missing a third one. There's many, but those are the 2 big ones. So you put a rat in a cage and you shine a light before it's going to get shocked.
Yeah.
And then it can like hit a lever or something like that and eliminate the shock from happening. So this is an ideal situation. You can predict. You can make a prediction, and you have control over it, and you can use this prediction to manipulate your environment. And then you take a rat that you take a few of those things away. You take away the light that warns it that it's going to happen, so it just shocks spontaneously, but you still give it this lever so it can turn it off. And that's an elevated stress response, but it still has some ability to control it.
Yeah.
And then the other one is you don't put on it doesn't matter. The worst thing that you can do, it's been too long since I've read about this. The worst thing that you can do is to just shock it uncontrollable. Like there's nothing it can do about it, and there's no warning. Oh, this was the other thing. Was a light comes on and it shocks it, And there's nothing it can do about it, but it can brace itself.
Right, it knows
it's
it's
ready
coming.
for it. And if it braces itself, it's not as bad. And so the worst thing you can do is have no warning, nothing it can do about it.
It's
and
unknown.
you do this enough, and then you put them in an environment where now they can take control, where a light will come on, and if they hit this lever, they'll be able to avoid this response.
Yeah.
But they'll never learn to do it because they've given up. They've been taught.
It's all uncontrollable.
The world is full of shocks and unpredictable, uncontrollable shocks. And what is the point in trying? And that's a lot of where chronic depression comes from, which I've had troubles with personally. I've never had anxiety issues or anything like that.
Yeah, me too.
And I don't know if you have this experience, but you go and do your special, and you're like, fuck yeah, I killed this special. That's awesome. Moving up in the world. And then it gets done, and you're like,
Postpartum depression.
I thought I was going to.
People get married,
feel
they
a
have
little
that.
better,
People get
and-
married, they have that for sure.
Yeah,
And then it's like
yeah.
this thing you're looking for since you were like a little kid, you know? I want to say girl, but like, since you were a little girl, you're like dreaming of this day, and then it happens. You're like, oh, so I can still go back to the same apartment I was living in with the same guy.
Because you got to go, now what?
Yeah, now what?
And not having direction is, that's why.
If it was a book, the book would be over.
Right.
You know, you'd have 3 more pages and then be done. yeah. You know, over as Lord of the
And you
Rings,
have
you'd have
to
another
keep on
45 minutes.
existing.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's why we have this. That's part of the reason why we have this illusion of confidence. Like most people rate themselves more attractive than they actually are, and smarter and better drivers and everything else. And it's because doing that gives you the confidence to move forward. And life is really. We're built to be so flexible and adaptive that you can convince yourself that any direction is the right direction. And if you just go that direction, you're probably just going to be fine because you can go a million different directions in life. But when you think that there's no direction and nothing means anything, which is like...
And you're stuck.
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of that with like... having, an existential crisis with realizing that religion was this lie that I was being told when I was a little kid, and I just could never snap out of it.
Carboni and I got that. You remember Carboni? Pete Carboni? Maybe you didn't. No, you weren't in LA. We took mushrooms together, and we both had the same thought, same mushrooms. We had the same thought as like we're minuscule in terms of like the whole universe.
Yeah.
We're this little blip. And then from there, I went to may as well have fun, enjoy myself, surround myself with friends. And he went to, what's the point?
Yeah.
We're all going to be forgotten.
Yeah.
And just went into this 6-month-long depression. Got back with an ex-girlfriend, a shitty ex-girlfriend, and just like...
I know. That's why I'm like, oh, they're not for everybody. Because I do mushrooms, and I have renewed direction in my life. I know that it might be a fictitious direction or...
Nah, not really, man. Even on ecstasy, it's like I've formed relationships with girls on an ecstasy trip. But it's like, but that was fake love. And it's like, it wasn't fake love. It was just pushed because of the ecstasy.
Yeah.
But like, it was
Opened you
still
up
real
to it.
feelings. I wouldn't fall in love with you if I was in ecstasy with you.
Right,
I would just be
right.
like, you're a really good friend. But I wouldn't like literally fall in love with you.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And those feelings, you actually had those feelings. Those feelings like, this person's amazing. It's like, that's real.
Someone made me feel a little better about ecstasy because I don't trust things that make me feel good. Just in general, I think sex is kind of a trick, and
Really?
I mean, it's an.
I need to get my
evolutionary
rocks off
trick
so I can get back to work.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're gonna have to jerk off and whatnot, and I mean, whatever. It's. You need to do it. There's this drive. It's just like if you're an obese person losing all this weight, you're going to get hungrier and hungrier, and you're going to have to give in because it's just too fucking distracting. But yeah, I mean, children are a tremendous cost. They're parasitic in nature, and it's an evolutionary trick that
They physiologically break your body down.
Yeah.
Women's cells, their cells in their bodies are breaking down once they have children.
I mean, the amount of calories that it takes just to grow a baby is insane, and then after that, these things are wired to manipulate you and suck as much energy as they can out of you. And there's this There's this tug of war that you have to do with the amount of energy you're willing to give. Yeah, and they cry and whine and figure out, and they've evolved. They've evolved to do that. So anyway, I just ecstasy. I'm like, this is a trick. But someone told me recently, they're like, I realized I can this is a feeling that is possible, right. And I can feel this good. And there was moments where I just felt good. I didn't feel any better than sometimes when I just get great news or whatever.
But that also puts you in a great place, getting great news.
Yeah, yeah. Right.
It's all going to work out. When somebody tells you it's all going to work out, they show you how, you're like, wow. And you're just like, you have pep in your step for a little while.
Yeah, I think that's helpful because I tend to, part of me getting past my chronic depression is just being like, all right, just stop giving up. Just keep going. Like, who cares? You've been fine this far. You're doing interesting things. Just keep going.
Yeah.
And that's always when when I hit moments when I start giving up. That's the worst feeling in life when you've given up. It's hard to snap yourself out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I had depression too. It's the same thing. Like, what's the point? I remember people telling me, like, you got to get up, do some exercise. And it's like, dude, I can't even go to the fridge.
Oh, yeah. Getting out of bed. There's, in depressed people, there's this, so the stress response elevates just a little bit right before you wake up to get you, in most people, and to get you going, to get you up and out of bed and or people that have anxiety will wake up in the middle of the night because, they can't stop thinking about whatever this problem is at work or whatever. And, but depressed people don't show this, that stress response doesn't kick in. And as they're like, well, why stress? I mean, like, everything's pointless. Who gives a fuck? And so it takes us much longer to get out of bed and to wake up and everything. Like you telling me to come over at 11 or 10 in the morning, I was like, oh no, right. I have a hard time.
Oh yeah, you could have told me too. Like, I don't really wake up that early.
No, I'm fine. But yeah, and then we're working too much. The idea that politicians are like, we'll create more jobs. Why? Why would you do that? I'll vote for the person who eliminates jobs. Yeah. More robots.
Everybody chill out.
More robots, more holidays, more fucking relaxation.
They got that in Europe over us.
30-hour work weeks.
In Spain and Germany, they got that over us where it's like they really enjoy their free time. They're not like expected to work 75 hours a week to make their company get ahead.
Our ancestors worked 4 hours a day.
The only reason you should be working hard, the only reason you should be working hard is if you own your company and you have a desire to build it. Right. I started a store and I want to make it. Not when some guy if I work for Walmart or in the corporate office or something, and it's like, to go to work for what? So the corporation can have more dividends for their shareholders.
Right.
That's not helping you.
I know. It's this illusion of meritocracy where it's like you work hard and you get X amount of money based on your units of effort that you put into it, and everything is, there's this just world hypothesis where we just feel like life is fair.
Yeah.
That's why people do a lot of like victim blaming and whatnot, because if that girl was asking for it, then it won't happen to my daughter because my daughter's not asking for it.
They had that Steubenville rape case, remember that? With the in Ohio, this video of these guys dragging out holding by feet and arms like a passed out girl. Mm-hmm. These football players from the high school, and it was covered up. But my friend was like a not feminist blogger. I shouldn't say that. She's a girls leadership blogger. But her point was like, in this video, you can see 5 other girls from the school not saying anything. You want to be like, oh, this terrible, but it's like they were doing that victim blaming. Like, he must have done something to fucking be in that position. Right. Yeah, that victim blaming is like a real thing. I talked to somebody whose kid died of SIDS, which is pretty horrible. When you have a baby, everything's going to go great. Then they wake up and the baby's blue, dead.
Yeah. And
she said that almost every parent was like, well, I don't know if you're supposed to leave them on their back or their stomach. I forget now. Is it back?
I don't know.
Let's say it's back.
Yeah.
Let's say it's back. And they're like, well, did you leave her on her back or her stomach? And they're like, we did it the right way. We left her on her back.
Yeah.
And they couldn't comprehend a world where someone's child could just die because their child didn't die. So if your child just died, I need you to have done something wrong. I need that. But that building blew up on 2nd Avenue and 7th. This landlord was siphoning gas from next door, and then the inspectors came, and he like put it back to like normal. And then when he was putting it back to the place next door, he didn't hook it up right. The place blew up. 2 people died. The whole building collapsed, caught fire. Everyone lost all their stuff. And it's like, you didn't do anything wrong. You were just paying rent. You know, you tucked your kid in at night.
Right.
You've done nothing wrong. You weren't like, oh, you got some shady landlord. No, you didn't. You just got some place on 7th.
This is like these hyper conscientious. That's people that are like exacting as much control as they can over the world, and everything's a pattern and everything's controllable. And if I just work hard enough, I will not fall victim to the chaos of the world. Nothing bad will happen to me because I've done everything right. Everyone has cancer and goes, why me?
Right.
Every single person, even though it's like one of the main causes of death, and you go, why? Because everybody. That's why. Like, why did death happen to me? Death happens to everybody.
Millions of people.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what the ultimate takeaway is. I think if we live in a more, just a slightly more mindful world, just a little more relaxed. I think if you understand the stress response system, you'll know that nothing should stress you out more than experiencing stress on a regular basis.
Right. That's the worst thing for you. Not these things that are pulling at you, but like the actual feeling of stress.
You're worried about terrorists? Are you fucking kidding me?
Right. It's never gonna happen.
Heart disease is the terrorist.
Yeah.
It's wiping all of us out.
Also, when there's nothing you can do about something, to worry about it.
Right.
The example I like to use is when I'm in line at the airport. And, you know, when you get there and you're like, oh, I'm an hour and 20 minutes early for my flight. This is the right time to be there. And you see the line out the door and you're like, fuck, I may have misjudged.
I know.
And then you're like, you keep going like, oh, are they moving? And so every time you see somebody like, next, you're like, he said next, please go.
Yeah.
But it's like,
you're frazzled.
Why won't they go? But you don't even say anything. You're just like, why won't they fucking go? Why won't they go? And at some point it hits you like, I'm not doing anything to correct this. I'm just feeling bad.
Right.
So at some point I had to be like, listen, it's already set. I'm either going to miss my flight or I'm not. So get on my phone, write some emails, have a good time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, think about stuff, listen to music. It's not going to change. So you're letting the stress in just to let the stress in. It won't help you. You know what I mean? If it's like there's a lion here, it's like fuck, quickly lock the door. Like sometimes stress can help you, like we said.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I need to cover this.
Yeah.
But if it's not, then you're just letting cancer in, right?
Yeah, and your panic. If you think your panic is going to help work toward a solution to this problem of if you sit back and you're relaxed about it, maybe you will notice a loophole and a way around it. But when you're fucking panicked and running around with like a chicken with your head cut off, like I've been like the last 2 months trying to just like typing 16 hours a day, fucking take care. Just the number of mistakes you're going to make, the number of opportunities you're going to miss out on because you're not going to see them because you're not thinking clearly. And
Exactly.
Vision.
My agent just calmed me down a little bit, where it was like my manager, where I was like trying to buy wardrobe for this thing for the special, and I was like, well, what if this doesn't work on film? And then I don't. And she goes, you know, you can just get a receipt and return it. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, I'll just buy both. Yeah.
I will say I would have like a few different things ready because I sent when I did my special, I sent them the shirt I was going to wear.
They said,
and they're
picture
like,
or the actual shirt?
Picture.
Yeah.
And then I got there, went out. They're like, nope, that won't work. And then last minute had to like run to the closest store, just grabs. I hated the shirt that I wore on my special and stuff. And I was like all self-conscious in it. And it was
I
just
did.
like,
and I even bought two pairs of the same shirt, the same pants, because I'll just return the other one. But if I spill something, I don't want to have to worry about it.
And that's a great way of taking control over. Now things are predictable. Now you've managed them, and if you pay a little bit more for that insurance, people are like, well, insurance, you're like throwing all this money away. Like if nothing, people are almost pissed if nothing went wrong in their life.
They paid for,
you know, because they paid for nothing essentially. No, you paid for something. People have a hard time. People
it's
think
just
that because things worked out the way that they did, that's the only way they were ever going to work out, and there couldn't have been some other variable.
No, you're paying for peace of mind. The only problem with insurance is in America, you're paying too much for peace of mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm not
Paying about
praising
three
fucking
times too much. Yeah.
Just the concept of insurance.
But yeah, exactly. Now I don't have to worry about it the whole time.
Yeah.
Or if you get like that travel shit where it's like, if I have to change my flight, it'll cost me $30 extra, $40. Oh, I didn't have to change. It's all right. Just in case.
Yeah. Now you're covered.
Yeah, it's cool how some people can calm you down, or an outside influence can, or sometimes once you learn it, I guess you can do it yourself. Like, calm down. What am I doing here? What do I need to do?
Yeah.
Chill out. What's the negative going to be? Right. So I did a few clubs leading up to the special where I was didn't promote it in any way. I didn't put it on my website. Didn't mention it on a podcast. I just wanted to play to non-fans so I could like feel the actual jokes working or not working, because I know people watching it are going to be mostly non-fans.
Right.
And then one of the clubs, they wrote my agent to write to me. He's like, "What the fuck, man? He's not promoting it." He was like, "Hey, is this one of the ones we agreed you weren't going to promote?" And I just like, at first I was like, "Oh fuck, how am I going to do?" And then it's like, "No, I'm not going to promote it. Don't reply to the email."
Yeah.
On Monday when I'm back, I'll say, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and then like, just don't feel it. Just don't feel it.
I know. I had the worst weekend I ever had.
Yeah, you feel so bad.
When I quit drinking,
yeah.
too, afterwards, was I had 2 shows at a place that, whatever, I'm not going to get into it, and the owner's dad was at a show the night before, and was like, well, I thought he did like a couple new things, and some of it didn't seem like his most polished stuff, and he was incorrect.
Yeah.
It was like, and
Just
I thought
didn't
the
hit.
show went well enough. It was just like I wasn't totally jiving with the audience on that 1 out of 3 shows that he went to.
Oh, they always want to tell you why you did something wrong. It's like, you don't know the reason.
Yeah, and then the dude, based on information from his fucking dad's review of my 1 out of 3 shows that he saw, wrote my agent. My agent and then I was like, oh, what? And then I like made all the. I was like, well, then I overanalyzed everything, and I was like, I made all these fucking changes to my act, and then he was like there monitoring me, and now I'm like all in my fucking head and stuff. Like I was feeling so good about it. I was like, oh, that show went fine. It was like, and then I fucking just fell apart, and I had the 2 worst shows of my entire career.
Because you're trying to please them.
In a row, trying to like, oh, what can I do to? And I mean, I had fucking people walking out left and right on me, and so it was fucking crazy. And then I got hammered that night. Fucking cried
really?
in the fucking stall after the show, and quit drinking the next day. But had I just been like, fuck this idiot, it wouldn't have. And it took me like, it was actually because all that shit happened, and like because I didn't I didn't respond appropriately to the situation. Even if I walked fucking more people than I did. Ultimately, who gives a fuck? I should have never let it eat me up as much as it did, but like I lost my fucking confidence for a long time.
Because of that.
It was a huge hit.
Because some guys, only because he got through to your agent. So then it was like, some guys got to the club owner, which is like now bigger than the agent, which is even bigger.
Because then it's like, now my agent is like, are they going to work as hard for me if they're getting reports like this? And then what's going to happen with my career if the work doesn't come in because my agent's not working hard because they're giving up on me and
they had the South Park like that where Peter was working for a TV network or something. And they're like, we got 12 complaint letters. And as we know, every complaint letter equals 1 billion people.
Oh, God damn it. I got to watch South Park. I don't know
it's Family
why.
Guy.
Oh, Family Guy?
South Park's way better. But that was Family Guy. But like, it's just like one of those things where it's like, dude, it's just, you're just hearing the one source. Relax.
I know.
Or like one angry tweet saying you suck.
Crazy. That's the negativity bias. And they actually say that.
Negativity bias,
They actually say that, like, if you're measuring like pain or pleasure in like these vague ideas of kind of units of say you're experiencing like 30 seconds of pain or 30 seconds of pleasure, the 30 seconds of pain are like they they estimate kind of like 2.5 times more salient
Really?
in your memory than your pleasure is. And then how our brain even interprets how painful
That's why bad
or
breakups
pleasurable.
happen. It's like, fuck you hurt me for a month.
Yeah, you just
Yeah, we had a year and a half of great times.
yeah, 2 years of fucking traveling the world, being in love, and then it just ends. Well, that's also this peak end rule, how our brain measures pleasure or pain.
It's your closer.
Exactly. The peak of it, how good it was at the peak, and then how did it end?
Sebastian used to call it when they did that Wild West comedy tour. Remember that one?
Yeah.
And he called Brett Ernst had this joke about a roller skating rink when he was little, and this guy Tony was like a best roller skater or ice skater. I forget which one. I think roller skater. And Sebastian called it the mind eraser because like doesn't matter how bad Brett Ernst was doing, if he pulled out that Tony fucking skater bit, everyone's gonna be like, "You were amazing."
Yeah. I've had sets like that where I bomb for like 30 minutes and then close out real strong.
Yeah.
Just because of whatever the
And you feel good.
situation is. And they had they had people put their hands in this bucket of ice.
Yeah.
And it's pretty painful. It's hard to keep your hand in there for a minute. And they'd have people rate it. And then they'd have people put their hands in that same bucket of ice for the same minute, and then afterwards they would warm up the water ever so slightly. So it's still cold, it's still very uncomfortable, it's just not as painful. And then it's 30 more. So the idea is that you would think of pain or pleasure in like units. Like I'm getting 60 units of pain plus an additional say 20 units of pain from another 30 seconds of like
warmer water,
slightly warmer water. And that's not the case. What happened is people actually preferred the one where it was 30 more seconds of pain. It was the exact same thing as the first test, just an additional 30 more seconds of pain. And then a hilarious thing.
They preferred what?
They preferred the 30 seconds more, where it was because they remembered the end of it. They're like, oh, that wasn't so bad.
Oh, right.
Because it relative to the first 60 seconds.
Well, that's what you expect, though.
Oh, that's not too bad. What's that?
That's what you would expect. It's less painful.
Yeah, but it's also the same amount of pain plus more pain, just less of it.
Oh, 30 seconds.
Additionally, so it's the exact same. Both parties still have their hand in the bucket of ice for 1 minute. It's just one has an additional 30 seconds.
Oh, so it's a minute and a half. That should be worse.
Yeah, it should be worse, but they actually experience it more. And a much funnier study that they
60
did.
60 seconds of shit and 30 seconds of dirt is worse than 60 seconds of shit.
Yeah.
They're like, nah, the dirt overall, they averaged out.
Then they did colonoscopies back when colonoscopies are better now than they
I had one
were.
this year.
How was it?
Weird. They push air into your stomach and it's just like so full. So you feel like you got to shit afterwards. Like, and then you just keep like farting and nothing comes out. But you're like, no, there's shit in there. But it's just this balloon of air. And it was just like so weird. I went straight to Opie and Anthony after that. And I had to fucking put, or whatever it's called then. But I had to like keep pushing my stomach. It was like, oh, it hurts. But it was fine.
Yeah, so they've improved in the process, but years ago it was like this really, really painful, uncomfortable process. And, and then the problem is people are deterred from doing it, so they're trying to figure it out. Do you do it as fast as possible and more painfully? Do you do it as slow as possible and it's less pain and longer? And then they kind of found out that people kind of prefer just in the middle of both like the intensity and the duration. But then what they found is that when it was all over, if they just left the device in your ass for like another minute or two, because it and just like acted like you're doing something that you weren't, so it's still uncomfortable. It's still painful. It's just not anywhere near as painful as that first little bit was. And so the end is the best part of the experience. And people are like, oh, that wasn't so bad. You actually just had a thing up your ass needlessly for 2 more minutes, causing more pain needlessly than you.
You're just getting used to it?
And just because it was less pain than what you were experiencing before,
wow, weird.
It seemed more pleasurable. So how we interpret pleasure and pain and what we're getting out of it is this thing like we think that there's this real solid foundation of how our, like if I watch 1 hour of television, and that's fun. That's going to be the exact same as
If you watch
1
20
hour
hours.
of hiking, say. That is fun. And but hiking, because you're more involved in it, your brain remembers better and you increase your well-being. These aren't things that we consciously know. We have to test what we don't know so we can get past we have all these, maladapted parts of our brain and things that are kind of hidden from
Or
us.
there's more that goes into it than we realize.
Right. And a lot
Dude,
of
there's
it,
something with skiing. I don't know if you ski at all. Hiking's kind of similar.
I've skied. I'm a bit of a natural because I used to rollerblade a lot,
Okay.
but I'm not like good at skiing.
Right. But there is something to be like, your mind, it cannot take its focus off the snow. Like, you
Right.
have to look where you're going.
Right.
And that it's almost becomes sort of a meditation where it's like occasionally you can stop and like look up at the scenery. But like while you're skiing, everything else goes out. It's not even like driving where you can do it on autopilot. This is, you really have to look at the terrain.
Yeah.
So it's just this really meditative, like completely in your own, like clear your brain of everything and just feel the fresh air.
Flow states.
Flow states.
Yeah, that's what they call them.
Really?
Yeah, that happens with rock climbing and stuff too. It's like,
Rock climb, right? You can't do that with and with hiking. You can like go off and think about something.
yeah,
You can't really
get
go off in your brain and
distracted.
think about something when you're skiing. Rock
But-
climbing, I assume, you got to look at those rocks.
I think that, yeah, and I mean, you can sometimes get distracted. I mean, once in a while, you'll be on the slope and have a thought like, how am I thinking of anything else right now?
Yeah.
Like once in a great while, but it,
Yeah.
if you're really moving, that's not going to happen very much. So the idea is with like mindfulness and meditation that you're applying meditation to kind of your everyday action, like you said, cleaning your room or washing the dishes or whatever, and just letting yourself understand when you're being distracted, not resisting it, just okay, there's a thing popping, and you can enter into these flow states just naturally without having to do this big adrenaline rush thing.
Yeah.
And that would potentially, it's not going to work for everybody, but potentially that would increase our well-being and understanding.
These flow states.
Yeah.
Well, you do, right. You do not have stress too. When you are skiing and like skiing a tough hill, let's say, or anything like that, where you are in the flow state, you really can't think about, fuck, I got to pay my taxes. I got to get, how am I going to
Yeah.
get this? This job's going to come through. I got to prepare. It's like, it's all gone for a while.
And that's like the best kind of stress because it's just like this adrenaline, like, whoa, let's get through this. And then
Yeah.
it shuts off.
Yeah.
When you get down to the bottom, you're like, great, you feel like $1,000,000. There's nothing can go wrong right now.
Dude, I remember being in a bad breakup, and playing basketball at Hollywood High School, I think, some one of those places, and not Hollywood High, one of those around there. And I remember like being in a game, and for the first time in a while, like I wasn't thinking about who else she's fucking now, and the pain, and this new boyfriend she left me for, and any of that. And then the game was over. I went to get to the water fountain, and halfway to the water fountain, it just rushes back. And you're like, oh, let's start another game, please. I can't think about this. And you can't unthink it,
I know.
But if you're concentrating on passing and dribbling and setting screens and stuff, like that's taking all your brain power.
Being in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our brain can concoct all sorts of shit. Well, that's the other thing with like finding placebos that work for you.
Uh-huh.
It's like
Yeah.
like I'm drinking this fucking kombucha right now. That is, I feel fucking silly buying this. I think it's probably like
it's $9.
$6
Yeah.
at least. And
I drink that
it's like,
kombucha
you
stuff.
think that fucking shit does anything good
I
for
don't know,
me?
maybe.
Nah. But if it makes me feel like maybe it is, then maybe I'll have a little extra spring in my step in the day. I mean, that's what antidepressants are. Test no better than placebos.
Really?
It's just that they are. That's why they say give it 6 weeks, because if you go into a therapist's office and someone's in their kind of worst point of their life, they're not going to.
Like, it's not going to work. It's not going to work.
Depression just doesn't last that long. So you'll naturally be out of it 6 weeks later anyway. And then if you're not, just give them a different pill. And you're giving it 6 weeks, not the pill,
Right.
is what's working. And but in the
I did try
meantime,
a lot of pills before I got the one that worked for me.
well, for some rare cases, people do find the one that will work a little bit for them. And there's certainly cases where, like, if you take if you do ecstasy, taking an SSRI the next day, that will replenish that
Good idea.
serotonin is
Yeah.
a good idea. But for most people,
What's the other kind? SSRIs and what? Something with an N.
I forget. Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, so the more invasive so if it makes you feel like a little wonky,
Yeah.
it works better. So they do these they did this one surgery where they couldn't tell if it was working or not, and like this surgery was really fucking up some people. And so just out of curiosity, I don't know how they were able to do this, but they give people this heart valve surgery, open them up, do absolutely nothing to them, stitch them back up, and those people tested better than people that had nothing done and people that had the actual surgery done. And, and I think that's a lot of what antidepressants are doing is thinking that.
Dude, they had this study I saw that was on a heart or blood pressure or heart disease. Forget. Let's say blood pressure. And they gave, they were actually testing placebos themselves.
Yeah.
And so they had this case study of 100 people that had high blood pressure, and they gave them all a placebo. And then the placebo in this group was actual blood pressure medication.
Right.
So 10% of the people got actual blood pressure medication, and 90% got a placebo.
Right.
And in the placebo group, which is usually the opposite, just to see how different it is. In the placebo, people showed lower blood pressure.
Right.
And they're like, wow, a lot of people are showing low blood pressure. And then they were like, cool, study's over. And these people are like, can you prescribe me a placebo? Because my blood pressure is down. I get it doesn't do anything, but I can't go and get a placebo. So I need you to prescribe it for me because I don't want to die of blood pressure. So they had to get these doctors like, oh yeah, I guess so. So they get these sugar pills so that every day they're actually doing something and putting it in their mouth.
Yeah, taking action.
Yeah.
That's the solution of kind of having control over this the unknown and the chaos of the world. It's like why people would.
I think that's with that kombucha too. I'm doing my part. I'm just drinking good, healthy stuff. It's gross, got boogers in it. It's must be good for me.
It has boogers in it. It's like,
what is this? No, it's alive. So why am I eating alive things? What does that have to do with it?
I mean, I get the idea, and part of it might be like because we don't get enough bacteria in our environment, just like the allergies I was talking about. That's my reasoning. That's why it kind of works for me and puts me in a better state, because I can convince myself and justify it in this seemingly intelligent way that is, I mean, if I think about it hard enough, it's utter nonsense.
Use words like probiotic. I love when you ask somebody, like, you get probiotics, like, what does that do for you? Like, it makes you healthy. I'm like, no, what does a probiotic do for you? And like, it's just like a toilet. It's like, I don't, what?
Yeah, well, it's in that, and people are like, well, this is that most things that say organic on them aren't organic, right? And it's like, yeah, but just let me have
don't ruin it. How about don't ruin it for me?
Just let me have it.
I had a back, what are those back doctors called? The fake ones?
The what?
The fake back doctors.
Oh, chiropractors,
yeah. And this guy was real meditative, like doctor, and he was like, okay, I want you, as I'm rubbing your back, I want you to think about your childhood, think about a good time in your life. And I was like, okay. And then it was like, okay, now I'm just, and he just like would touch like warmth on my back. Mm-hmm. He goes, do you feel better? And I was like, let me get up. I was like, no, I don't. And he's like, you got to believe in it, man. You got to believe in it for it to work. I'm like, no. You got to fix my goddamn back.
My fucking pediatrician. In fucking, I shouldn't even say, one of my pediatricians, I don't want, because they were all nice people, but one of the guys kept on going, well, if you just believe in it, it'll work.
What is it, Freddy Krueger? What are you talking about? Doctor.
You treat people like you operate on people.
What is my finger going to be set? It's broken. Set my fucking finger.
That's fucking crazy. Yeah. And yes, there absolutely is like a little something to it, just because there's these feedback loops and it's really easy to trick the mind. And I mean, look at how fucking stupid confidence is. Anyone that's confident is a fucking moron. Like, I turn on confidence to do this this podcast, and then afterwards I'll second guess every fucking thing.
I love that. People are like, was that terrible? I'm like, no, it's really good.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
And scientists will do that all the time when I interview them. These are like some of the fucking smartest people in the country, and afterwards they're like, was that? It's like, dude, you're fucking smarter than anyone listening.
Chill
to
out.
This.
Yeah.
And so, you know, but if I can have this confidence, then I can deliver these ideas in a way that seems convincing and whatnot, you know. But most of us are fucking delusional. They'll show people a picture. They'll take your face, and they'll morph it 10 degrees. And 20. I hope I didn't talk about any of this stuff the first time that I saw it. I don't think so. But
it's okay if you did.
I had, so they'll morph it 10% more symmetrical, 20% that's just making you more attractive.
Yeah. That's those Snapchat filters.
Up to like 50%.
Like, everyone's hot. That's why you're never supposed to stalk your ex-boyfriend's new girlfriends, because you're like, they're so hot. It's like, those are filters. That's not how hot they are.
Just zip a little more symmetrical. And then you can make them 10% wonkier, make them less attractive. And so now you're looking at 11, you have 11 different faces, and one is their actual face.
Yeah.
5 are uglier to different degrees, 5 are more attractive. You mix them all up, you flash them on the screen to people and be like, which one is your face?
So your own face.
What
do they choose? Slightly more attractive?
People choose, I mean, and if you have low self-esteem or something, there's individual differences, but most people overwhelmingly will pick 10 to 20% more attractive. It's just enough. Like, if it's 30%, your brain's like, come on, now you're lying to yourself. But if you can think of yourself as 10% more attractive, then you actually are 10% more.
I had a girlfriend who used to always say that it was tough because she was hot in whatever field she was in. And I remember going like, you're not hot. You're like kind of an unattractive person. I went through because I like you so much. But like, but I was, every time she said that, I was like, yeah. But like, what?
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, man, if you get confident, if you get a good woman behind you, calling you my king, or fucking, you know, like saying, oh, you fucking so good, anything like that, you walk off into the world, fucking, you own it.
And that's all it takes.
Own your surroundings.
I mean, I remember, I mean, this is most CEOs of most companies. Like, I remember my brother just got his first corporate job like 3 years ago or whatever. He's like, you don't understand. When the CEO walks in, there's just something about them that's different. It's like, no, they just have the status. Yeah. You would act the same way.
Yeah, if I saw that CEO, I wouldn't react differently to them.
Right.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah. It'd be like, this guy's a fucking douchebag. And the CEO has that confidence because of their place on the hierarchy. Mm-hmm. If you we're just fucking monkeys on a hierarchy, and we have this, and we make up these imaginary hierarchies too, like who's the best at comedy and why it's like this person's
it's not fair, that guy got this.
Yeah, they're doing a completely different thing than you are. They're like a black lesbian that does puppets, and like
and you're mad at them.
Like, they're not taking your fans away from you or something. They're not your competition.
That's what I got with Reggie Watts after a while. I used to be so mad. I used to be so mad. And then I was like, guys, and then I finally saw it, you know, live. And I'm like, he blew me away. It's a Montreal show. I was like, oh, it's so interesting. And then people were like, well, it's not a comedian. I was like, oh yeah, you were just worried about labels.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that. Just like, this guy's so fun to watch.
Yeah.
That's what you should be worried about.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just so fun to watch him. Like, he's not a real. All right, fine. Say, it's like, why label? You're taking away from the joy you can feel watching this guy do something really interesting.
Right. Yeah, he's an artist. And then we like the show that I'm doing now, I would have never done years ago, because it's almost like more of a TED Talk. It's really funny. There's funny stories and jokes, and it's some of the funniest stuff I've ever written, but it's also much more information in it, and like longer setups and stuff. So it does require a bit more patience, and I wouldn't call it just like standard stand-up comedy. It's definitely a little more of like a one-man showy kind of. I'm not doing like wig changes and shit like that, but it's just a different feel. It's called A Good Trip. It's a fine enough name.
A Good Trip? The Good Trip.
A Good Trip. A Good Trip. Used to be called This Is Your Shane on Drugs, which is such a better name. And
that's an Edinburgh name.
know. I had to change.
They always do these, like,
it didn't work for me.
Oh, really?
It was.
That's the only thing I did, because I was like, I'm not doing this fucking UK style hour. I'm not doing it. But I was like, I will meet you halfway in terms of just the name.
Yeah.
So I called it Ari Spect. It was not really that. Nothing to fear but Shaffir itself.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think, yeah, labels. We attach to labels.
Yeah, it's weird. You got to force people to fit into a thing, and if they don't, then it's like, what are we going to do? Even like boyfriends and girlfriends, like, are you guys going out now? You're like, I don't know, man. I know I'm enjoying it. What? Why do you have to like say what it is? And then if it ceases to become that thing that you've labeled, then it's like, well, now it's a negative. It's like, no, it's just different than you labeled it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or like people get mad at like rugby versus football, you know, or soccer versus football. Like, that's not the way football is. And it's like, I know, it's a different sport. So why are you getting upset?
Why would people waste their time with this goofy sport? Can you believe what they're watching in this other country?
Yeah.
Why would thousands of people sit around watching? Mine's definitely very important, but I don't see why.
It's like religion. It's just like religion. It's
yeah.
crazy. That's crazy. This guy buried tablets. I'm like, you have a fucking guy who came back from the dead and got out of a fucking cave. You lifted a boulder and got out of a cave. Shut up.
Yeah, it's just we really, our brain will trick us into thinking we fucking know everything.
Yeah. All right, Shaney.
Thanks so much for having me, man.
Yeah, you're welcome. What's your podcast called?
Here we are.
Here we are. I know how to spell that. I don't have to go over
Go to
it.
herewearepodcast.com. New episode each week with a different scientist each week.
Different scientist. Yeah, if you like hearing about fucking smarter shit than you. I heard one guy, Dave Smith, about this whole political thing, because I don't remember it being this fucking antagonistic and people getting angry at each other and blocking people off Facebook as much as like the years past.
Yeah.
This seems like it's way more divisive.
Right.
But his point was, if you are not reading at least one book that challenges your already preconceived notions, he goes, then just don't talk. Because you're already going to say this no matter what.
Right.
So he's like, go out of your way to read like why republicanism would be good or why the healthcare system is bad if you believe in it. Like whatever it is, go out of your way to try hearing new information or forget it.
Yeah. I try to I challenge myself and try to read like
Scientists
I'll read like
are
a
smart.
new agey sort of thing. Just because like I'm very adverse to like new
The
agey
Secret?
feel goody sort of stuff. And I'm just kind of want to understand where people are coming from a little more. And I don't know if I've seen the benefit of it just yet, but I keep on. But at least I'm like.
But at least you're challenging yourself. Dude, when I date young girls, occasionally one of them was like, here's your only problem, Ari. Since you've been through more stuff than me, you think you know what the experience is that you've written off. So you no longer have to try it again.
Right.
You know? And then it was like, you know what? You're right. Because I'm not enjoying or finding joy in new things again, where I'm like, let me try it again. Mm-hmm. You know, Todd Barry had a joke about he doesn't like sushi. And he goes, yeah, I don't like sushi. He goes, I gave it a chance at the Cincinnati airport in 1987. You're done, sushi. it's like allow yourself to read. And if you might try it again and be like, yeah, I don't like it. And that's okay. But at least you're like seeing.
Yeah,
you're still there.
I do. Like I'm trying to drink IPAs right now because I
hate them.
I don't like IPAs.
So you're trying to force yourself to learn. And I find out the only reason they taste like that is because it's an additive to make them last from fucking England to America. They put the shit in to make them last, and not for taste.
And I think it's like meant to like cover up bad brewing.
That's what it is.
Stuff too. So
people are like, you're crazy. It tastes so good.
I don't need to like IPAs, but at least like I tried.
Yeah, every once in a while I'm like, I'll try this one. But you don't want to be that curmudgeonly old man who was like, I only like 4 things in life, and that's it.
Actually, because
your tastes change too over time.
Interviewing scientists, every scientist. They get caught in these predicaments too, where they go down their little rabbit hole, their specific thing, and evolutionary psychology is God, and you don't listen to sociology because that's a bunch of nonsense, or something like that. And they look and find that the scientists that have the most brain deterioration, susceptibility to Alzheimer's later in life, whatever it might be, are the people that are like experts in their field. They're in the top of their field.
So if it goes to them for their opinion and they don't go to like reevaluate.
No one challenges them ever. And they don't get to explore other things because they found their niche and they're really good at it. And they have to stick with this.
They said Alzheimer's is strikes more people that take the same route to and from work every day than people who change their route.
Yeah, I believe that.
Because you've got a new like stimuli instead of like the same thing. That thing's always there.
Makes me want to rely less on GPS but you're fucking crazy with that phone.
I'm not crazy. You get off the subway, you look at the Empire State Building and the World Trade Center, whatever's left of it, and you're like, that's north. That means this way's east.
You're brave, and I admire your lifestyle choice.
Yeah. But definitely get off GPS. I would say that.
Yeah,
like, know the way to your grocery store.
I think you're right.
That's what people do when it's too much. You know the way to the grocery store. You still keep looking down, and you're like, it's a 10-minute drive. At worst, if I take the wrong way, it's a 12-minute drive. Just drive.
I lived in Massachusetts for 6 years, knew how to get around everywhere in Massachusetts. And there's MapQuest and stuff.
Yeah.
I've lived in LA for 5 or 6 years. I don't know. Like, I'm so embarrassed. People are like, "Oh, I live in East Hollywood or whatever." I'm like, I would have no idea how to get there. Like, not a clue. I've been there for 6 years.
Dude, I didn't learn the subway system here. But my friend Baldinger was like, it was after like 5 months, like, you learn the subway system now a little bit? And I was like, no, because he came pre-smartphones. And I was like, not really, because it says take the F to the this and then transfer there. But if you miss the F, do you have to wait for the next F? Or can you also take the M? Like, none of that enters you. As soon as I got this, within a month, I learned the subway system. So a year and a half it took me, and then a month, I was like, oh, I got it all now. Just looking at maps. Yeah, you stop yourself from learning with that GPS. But on occasion, when you're dead lost, you're like, where the fuck am I? How do I get out of here?
Yeah, it's tricky because like that's part of like your brain building efficiencies is like building these routines so you don't have to think.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's why you want like
stuff.
an exercise routine. So it's not like taking a lot of cognitive effort.
Yeah, you don't have to like,
I gotta fucking. You just do it.
What does this one work out for? What does this one do for me? Yeah, you just go.
But
you're right. Where it's like if you think you know everything, you're just gonna fuck yourself.
Yeah. You're not exploring. You're not questioning. You're not being open. I think people that are low in like the openness trait are people that are like they're scared of outsiders and stuff, and that might have been effective back when outsiders were like the tribe next door was going to murder you given the opportunity. But now you're just missing out on lots of opportunities because you're not exploring.
They did a study on the book Quiet by Susan Cain about introverts. And he was talking about guppies and how if you're in a pond where there's no barracudas, you can just swim around and have a great time because there's no real people. But the introverted ones kind of stay by the shore a little bit, And then suddenly a pond will like meet up with a river. Like the river will kind of break down the sediment, and now you've introduced barracudas into this, and the extroverted ones die instantly. The barracuda's like, we're eating. And the introverted ones stay alive because they sort of have this fearfulness. The other way is if you are in with barracudas and the extroverted ones kind of take peeks both ways, like there's a barracuda around here, I'll be careful, but I'm going to go out. And the introverted don't. And then the barracudas all die. He goes, then you have these extroverted ones who now experience all of life and have a great time, whereas the introverted ones still stay in this little fucking, I remember a long time ago there was a barracuda.
Right, yeah.
And you got to kind of reevaluate, what's the situation now?
Yeah.
When I moved here, I was to ask Neil Brennan, I was like, do I need bars in my window? I don't think I have bars in my window. I want a bottom floor. He goes, oh man, read the crime stats. It's not, Manhattan's not like that anymore.
Yeah,
you're fine.
It's not that dangerous.
Yeah, and I was so worried. Even moving here, I moved to B last year, 11th and B, and it was like I didn't want to go left to C. I was like, I'm gonna fucking die. And then you finally do, and you're like, this is beautiful. It's a ciabatta place.
Yeah, I know. That is life. It's people that don't get to travel, don't get to see it.
And you'll see. You've seen this where cities have changed over time.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, this place is all this. And then 15 years go by, and the people that were making the music then have passed out. New people that were 7 at the time, now they're the 22-year-olds making the art of the city. And you're like, oh, the city's turned really cool.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, it's gotten really lame.
Right.
So you make these thoughts of that place sucks. And when's the last time you were there?
Right, yeah. We make too many assumptions in life. Keep questioning.
All right, Shane.
All right. Awesome, man.
You're on Twitter at Shane Mauss.
Yeah. Good luck on the
MAUSS.
special, man.
Thanks.
Can't wait to
Thanks.
see it. That's exciting.
Yeah, I'm zoned in on this. I've been ready for like 3 months. I'm just been preparing, like getting set, but like it's the least nervous I've been for anything.